Daniel Molina here with Inside Outreach. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I got Paele with me, and he's going to talk about things that happened to him from going from running his dad's business to being a community leader after the Lahaina fires. Paele, tell me, so you were running your dad's company, you were bartending a little bit about 4 or 5 months ago, and all of a sudden you rose up to be a community leader where you're talking in front of heads of states and trying to legislate and change laws to help and support the Lahaina community. So tell me a little bit, how'd you get here?
This journey started when I was a kid. My family has always been very active. I don't like to use the word protesters, but they've always been protesters, but I like to call us protectors. They've always been very heavily into that, fighting for our water rights, our land, and things along those lines. So I've always been heavily influenced and integrated into that. But I guess my first ever time when I spoke out and gave my first ever testimony, there was a development taking place in Kaanapali, or a proposed development. And my uncle called me up one day. He's like, "Hey, I need you to post a video on Facebook of just giving your testimony." So I did. And back then, before Instagram and TikTok and everything existed, and 5,000 views or 4,000 views was kind of a lot, I posted my first testimony, and it gained some traction, about 4,000 views overnight at the time. Doesn't sound like a lot now, but yeah. And due to the video, I gained some recognition with certain people, and then ended up flying me to Maui to be part of the panel. So I was sitting up there as, part of my generation, and I got to address my community, about 400 or 500 people there in attendance. And
And how old were you at that time?
I think I was about 22.
Okay.
So that was like 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
It was a while ago. When that happened, I saw how people reacted to me speaking, and I told myself that this is what I need to do. It's always been my dream to fight for my people, so I figured this is where I can implement myself and my set of skills for the betterment of my community. So I completely shifted I was in college at the time, and I completely shifted my major, and I was just an ag major at the time, and I wanted to be a little bit more broad, so I went into environmental science. And I had a plan of going into double majoring in environmental science and political science, because for me at the time, I figured for me to be able to make the changes I want to see, I need to be in a position of power. So I wanted to come back and eventually run for office. Then, one thing led to another. I was trying to go to law school instead of going into political science. And I was unsuccessful getting into school. I tried for 3 years, and this last year I attempted again, and I was unsuccessful. So I figured I'd come back to Maui. I was living in Oahu at the time. I figured I'd come back to Maui and work with my dad and save up money and try again the next year. And then the Honolulu situation, the boat ended up was beached on the reef. And me and my dad were the first responders there. And then I saw a lot
So for those who never heard of it, so what happened was it a commercial boat or a private boat? It kind of just did not work, or something did not turn on, and it just ended up being on the reef. And so that's what happened. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah. So that in that case, it was about 100-foot yacht, massive yacht, and there are moorings in Honolulu Bay. The moorings are only able to hold so much weight. So when they moored there, first of all, the mooring couldn't handle the weight of the boat. Second, you're not allowed to moor there overnight, but they did. So they woke up in the morning to their alarms going off because they broke free of their mooring and they started drifting into the reef. But with a vessel that size, it's not very maneuverable, so it takes some time for you to be able to adjust your trajectory of where your boat's going. So as a result, they ended up on the reef. And we went there, and we were the first responders trying to get, help pull it off the reef. And long story short, there was a lot of backlash towards the owner himself of the vessel. So it was a commercial vessel, but was used for personal reasons that day. A lot of the backlash was towards that man, which rightfully so. He shouldn't have been there. But who are the ones who are supposed to have been taking care of that? And that is our Department of Land and Natural Resources. It is their job to police an area like that, especially it being a conservation site where you're not allowed to fish or dive or extract any of the resources out. So something like that, seeing a boat of that size there overnight, should have been addressed at that time. So I started to educate. I put out a video. That was my first like video to ever have gone.
That's exactly
kind of
where
viral.
I heard about you. I was like,
Yeah.
who's this guy? He's on there talking about this and everything you were saying. I was like, dude, I agree with what he's saying. And so, so tell me about that, because I remember you like saying they're keeping you from being able to help and help with the situation as a local community, a caring citizen. How can I help? And you kind of got stopped.
Yeah. So that was my first taste personally of the downfalls that our government, our state, and our county, where they lack. So we were having issues trying to go there. With a situation like that, it needs to be, time is of the essence for all of it. And the fact that you need to go through all of these red tapes and loopholes just to get the boat off of the reef was kind of ridiculous, and what put a hamper on the progress of us getting it off of the reef. So we went there on jet skis later on that day, jet skis and boats. But because it was whale season, you're not supposed to be on a jet ski. It's illegal. But through the law of necessity, we figured if we can get there as fast as possible, we can utilize this tool, which is the jet ski, to make sure it doesn't get further up on the reef. But when we pulled up, the Department of Land and Natural Resources, one of their officers was on top of at Honolulu Bay, yelling at us in the waters, telling us to get out of here, beat it, we're going to fine you, you're going to get tickets. So I told him, yeah, come, give me a ticket. I don't care. I'm protecting my place. He never ended up coming and giving us a ticket, but that was an issue. Aside from that, we're like, okay, we tried for hours to pull the boat off. It didn't work. It was stuck there. So the next most viable option is get the diesel out of the boat. So we pulled up with totes, massive tanks, 50-gallon drums. We had a trash pump to go onto the boat, and we had enough to store 400 gallons of diesel. We could have did it right then and there. But at this point, the Department of Land and Natural Resources kind of commandeered the area, I guess, and the Coast Guard was there, and they said, this is out of your jurisdiction already. So once the Coast Guard got involved, we couldn't go down and do anything about it. Minutes later, gallons upon gallons of diesel started to leak on the reef. So that was like an eye-opener to me that, wow, we need to have a lot of changes within our system to make pressing issues like this easier to solve and faster to solve, because in cases like this, especially with the Lahaina wildfire, time is of the essence.
Yeah, and really, when I think about it, it's like, if you think, let's say 150 years ago, the community would put together and go solve the problem together. Yeah. No, like, oh, we got to get this person. It's like, oh, no, we want to help, and then the people of leadership would receive that help and say, yeah, welcome that help. Where here we are trying to help and avoid the spill of the diesel, and because of time was of the essence, and they stopped you guys from doing it. The inevitable happened, and now we have to wait, and now there's a bigger problem. And so why do you think there's this, like, no, we don't want the community's help, we got it, we're a big government, and we're going to take care of it, you don't know what you're doing, when for generations, we know how to help. We got plumbers, we got electricians, we got contractors, we got, we know how to take care of the Aina. And so what do you think, why do you think there was this, like, blockage of not wanting you to be a part of that, or the community to be a part of it? Like, how did we get to a place where the community no longer can help out with these disaster affairs kind of thing?
I guess, it's all, part of it is like safety, right? Like, they want a specific set of people to be handling these issues because of safety reasons and whatever it may be, but they tend to generalize everybody. Somebody who's more than capable and has the knowledge to do something and fix the issue, they kind of look right past you because you don't have all of these credentials backing you up. And through just that situation and prior to this, I always see anytime a situation issue comes up created at the county level, state level, or federal level, who comes to the rescue with the solutions? It's always the community. Every single time. The community has the will to make it happen. The government has the means to make it happen. So how do we bridge that gap? So that's kind of how I ended up where I'm at. I mean, that was like my initial push to in that position of leadership. But also, people are afraid to speak out sometimes. People are afraid to do anything against the grain because due to our curriculum and the way that we've been taught, people have been conditioned to be that way and just be complacent with the things happening around them. I'm not like that. No, I'll swim upriver against the waves, go against the grain, because I see that our status quo of going with the grain and going with the flow, you're going to flow out into the ocean, way out into the ocean if that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go with that flow if it's going to eventually mean my demise.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, it's like, if I see sheep running off the cliff,
Yeah.
I'm not going to run with them. What I'm going to do, I'm going to look, say, why are they running first? Then if running off the cliff is the better thing, then I'm going to do it. But if it's not, then I'm going to do something else. And so it's what you're saying is like, I'm very observant of what's going on around me. And so I'm just not going to go for status quo and just what everyone's doing, because that usually leads to things that you end up in places you don't want to be, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you just look at, we have a lot of issues today. A lot of issues that we have to deal with environmentally, economically, socially, culturally, environmentally. Every aspect, there are issues within that. So how does it make sense that we continue down the same path, the path that created these issues, right? If we continue down that same path, then we're going to continue to do the same things. We can sit around the table and complain about the same shit all day, every day. But if we don't make a change in our path and you continue with the status quo and going with the flow, then you're going to experience more of the same. And being observant of the things going on around you, for one. Two, knowing what you're talking about. Like I waited a long time before I actually came out and started speaking, because I want to make sure that when I am speaking, I know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're
I know what I'm
educated,
talking
yeah.
about, right? So
And that was so hard to do, and we'll segue into the Lahaina fires from here. What was so hard was to get factual information so that we can report the right the right truth about what's going on and what was needed. And so before we go there, I love that, because you're not just blindly going and here's my opinion.
Yeah.
My father-in-law says everyone has. They said opinions are like belly buttons. Everyone has them, right? And so it's not something special that you have an opinion. It's an informed opinion is what matters, right? And so what you were trying to do is, you know what? Here's my informed opinion. And so you did your due diligence to figure out what I need to talk about, what's truth, what's a solid foundation I can stand on. Then I can speak on that. And so tell me, so that was the first kind of public appearance, if you will, after what your dad told you to do, to stand up. And then I think you became like viral from even the boat thing. And then all of a sudden Lahaina happened. So then tell me a little bit, but like, what were you doing that day, and how did you start interacting in that way?
Yeah, so the day of the fire, I was actually on my way to work, and I get into town and I see, the wind was just ridiculous. It was crazy. And I got a call from one of my cousins telling me that one of my dumpsters blew away in the wind. And these things are like 5,000 pounds a piece. Wow. So the fact that the wind blew that thing like it was a little toy just comes to show how extreme the winds were.
80 mile per hour winds.
Yeah. It was, I went up to go check on the dumpster itself, and I was in the bushes, like maybe a good 30 yards away from where it was. And the wind was so strong that it lifted me up off the ground and slammed me on my back.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it was crazy.
Well, it lifted it 5,000.
Yeah.
5,000 pounds.
It'll blow me away like nothing. But, I figure, okay, I can't work today. There's no way. I can't even get through all the roadblocks because the power lines were down. So I decided to go home. I live out north of Lahaina. And there was no service, there was no power, so I could not contact anybody in town to get information or check on them or see if they're okay. I did check on my grandma before I left, and everything was fine. And then I get a call from my mom, who lives on the Big Island, and she said, "I think you need to go into town now to go check on the boat. Lahaina's on fire." And I immediately got into like kind of panic mode to go and try and save our boat, which is right in the heart of Lahaina, right next to where the fire kind of started. So as I'm coming into town, I see one of my friends hauling another friend's boat out of the area. So I pull over on the side, because he pulls over on the side of the road, and he's covered in just ash and smoke. His face is black, and he just looked like he saw a ghost. Immediately, my priority changed from going and try to salvage the boat or save the boat to I need to go check on my grandma, because it's right in the path of the fire. And then I got closer to town. You could see the smoke. The smoke plume was massive. It was blocking out the sun to an extent. And I got stuck in traffic in Kaanapali because all the roads were blocked and closed. And I was like, I need to get there now. So luckily, one of my friends was fleeing the area with his bicycle, walking, and he saw me. And I told him, I need your bike right now to go and warn my grandma. So I left my truck there, jumped on his bicycle, and rode for 4 hours. Not 4 hours, sorry, 4 miles. Yeah. About 4 miles into Lahaina town, into the heart, to go and warn my grandma, because I couldn't call her. And knowing her and her generation, they're very stubborn. So they're going to wait till the very last minute. But I knew that was not a very smart thing to do. So I got there. Luckily, there was some family members there with their cars. So they all jumped in together in the car, and they got into the traffic fleeing Lahaina. And yeah, we got out. She got her out in time, but that was the day of the fire.
When you got there on the bike, you ditched the bike, got in the car, and got her out?
No, so I had her jump in the car of one of the family members, and I rode my bike back. I rode the bike to a spot, but I ended up just tossing it in the bushes, and one of my cousins was there with his dirt bike and gave me a ride back to my truck. And then I was getting calls from family members to go and check on this and check on that, so I ended up going back into the area to check on those places. But for the most part, all family members and people directly related to me were safe.
Wow.
But yeah, that was the day our lives changed forever.
So that happened, which was devastating. And obviously we were in Oahu and just seeing it afar, and on like, we were just like, what the heck happened? And I remember as a kid, I came here once, and it's definitely a beautiful place, and a lot of people vacation here, and it's a very big part, the banyan tree there, and the people's lives, like 100 people ended up, I think 100 people, 110
confirmed now.
Confirmed, yeah. Right. You know, so many people have lost their lives. And so then days after, supplies, people don't have water, they don't have their insulin, just basic stuff, toilet paper, all that. And people are just like, what all of a sudden, thousands of people just been displaced. So tell me how you were involved in helping and trying to provide resources and such to these people in need.
Yeah, so the first couple of days after the fire, all roads coming into Lahaina were closed. Well, I mean, understandable. But that includes every truck full of supplies trying to bring it into Lahaina. That includes people trying to bring gas into family members who are not even from Lahaina, but just got stuck in Lahaina and want to leave, right? So all the supplies were being blocked from us. And if you left Lahaina, you would not be able to come back in. So for those who have elderly, who needed their specific medications for the following week or the days following, that could have been detrimental to so many people, aside from the people who died in the fire. I mean, somebody dying to health complications because a roadblock, me trying to get medication or anything, water, food, all of the necessities that we needed, they were being blocked from us. And that was my first video that I posted, and I live off grid. So because I live off grid, I had Starlink, and I had service regardless of what was going on anywhere else. So I was that means of communication to the outside world, I guess, because I was one of the few who had access to internet to share with everybody. So I posted that first video to educate people on what was going on, the situation, especially with the roadblocks, and that went viral.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, I had 4,000 followers on my social media on August 8th. On that following weekend, I had about 25,000.
Wow.
The following week, I had about 40,000. So that's where it's kind of stayed at. But because that...
Let me pause there.
Yeah.
Like those are just numbers to certain people, right? But what they don't realize is your voice. And that voice is resonating with 40,000 people. Because if you're just some Yahoo, who cares? Okay, some guy's trying to protect his island, whatever, then they'll just ignore you. But the fact that there's a man, I like what this guy's saying. I believe in what he's saying, and it's resonating in my heart. I'm going to follow this guy. I'm going to like this post. I'm going to share it, and I'm going to follow this guy. So it speaks a lot about what's in your heart. And you said your dad, told you, hey, I want you to share this on social media, and you did. And you've kind of been this protector, you said, as this kid. And so it's not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. And some people think, oh, he's one of those guys that just wants to protect his people. No. It's a guy who cares about his people, cares about the citizens here and the residents here in Hawaii, and he wants to continue to keep Hawaii what is known for, the beauty of Hawaii. And so the fact that so many people liked and follow you is because they resonate with your message. Right. And so that's bigger than just, oh, I got all these followers, I'm cool. It's like, no. You had a message and you delivered. You didn't have like all this camera equipment like we have today. And, it was just you on your phone using the tools that you have in front of you to deliver a message, and it resonated. I mean, I followed you after that video. I think I followed you for the boat one. Hey, who's this guy? I like him.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, I love that people are resonating with your message. How did that, I know it's like, who cares what people think about us, but sometimes knowing that other people are in the same agreement with what I'm saying, it's kind of like it charges you a little bit. Like, oh, there's people on my team that are championing me and wanting me to continue forward. How did that make you feel?
It gave me hope. It gave me hope in humanity again, knowing that people do actually care, but sometimes they don't know how to show that they care. They don't know. Some people don't even know they care until you say the right things to them, So I guess that's kind of where I came from, is I wanted to portray it in a way. A lot of the information I share, I portray it in a way that everybody can relate to. It's not attacking one specific person or entity or ethnicity. Or maybe to an extent I attack government a lot. But,
well, entity. Right?
Yeah, but trying to make it in a way that is all-encompassing, right? And being respectful of how other people might feel or think. But aside from that, like I said, making sure I knew what I was talking about prior. Like we say, know your vai. Vai is water. Know your water. Know the waters of where you come from. And, like for example, when they were up on Mauna Kea protesting, I went there and I was part of it all, but I wasn't there every single day like a lot of people were. And I was asked, why aren't you up there a lot? And I said, because I want to go up there, and if I do go up there and I speak, I don't want to just make noise. I want to be heard. And in order for you to actually be heard, you got to know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I remember watching a lot of news media come out here and try to cover the story. And I came here, I think 3 or 4. I wanted to come here 3 days after, next day, but the people on the ground said, don't come. You're just going to create chaos in the already chaotic airport, and they're returning people away from coming in. So I waited, I think, a week. But when I came and I started asking questions and meeting the right people and the right leaders, and then I came back home and I watched the media, like, it was noise. They didn't know what the heck was going on. They were saying, "Oh, that's not." I was like yelling at my phone, checking the news, like, "That's not right. That's not. They don't need that. They need this." And so it was frustrating, because here's these people thinking they know what's going on and they don't, and they're asking the wrong people the questions, right?
Yeah.
They're not looking for the community leaders to get the factual information that they needed. And so then you were able to communicate to the world with what's going on there, and then that started shifting your life a little bit, right? And then you started to be a voice almost to the people of Lahaina, and going in there and providing resources and connecting with leaders. Tell me how your involvement with other leaders.
Yeah. So the weekend directly after the fire, I was jumping around from this leader to that leader, from that hub to this person, like just getting an idea of where the Lahaina community was at, where they are staying, and along those lines. And I would talk to community leader like Uncle Archie, then I would go to Uncle Kiamoku, then I would go to Uncle Kai, and a lot of them have a lot of the same ideas and a lot of the same things that worry them. So I figured, instead of being redundant, as this person working on that and this person working on that, maybe I should call a meeting with everybody. I wanted to bring them all together so that we could all work together on the same thing, because redundancy kills, right? If this person's working on housing and the same other person's working on housing, then it kind of defeats the purpose. Like,
well, it also wastes resources, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not working together in unity and hooting together. And so, yeah, you're right. It's like all these people want to do different things, and if we're not talking to each other, then it's just wasting resources. So I love that you saw that.
But the biggest thing I got, it was pretty nerve-wracking having all of them sitting in that room together. I think there was like 35 or 40 of us that we had a meeting, and we had that meeting at Merriman's. And it was nerve-wracking because a lot of these people are the ones I looked up to, the ones who taught me a lot of what I know. So for me to get up in front of them and basically try to organize the organizers,
wow,
that was scary for me. But I saw, okay, this next generation is going to have to step in. Like, now, this is our time to do it. And, taking a lot from what I learned from Mauna Kea, the only way moving forward is moving in unison, moving as one people. And I told them this, I said, that's the only way I see my generation moving forward with this Lahui movement, is working together as one entity, one unit, rather than, what you did. And I told them, what you did 10 years ago and what one of you did 10 years ago is going to take 10 of us 10 years from now to accomplish, because of all of the new issues that will come about, but also a lot of the new technologies that we have accessible to us to take things to a different height that we never thought imaginable. But I asked them, I need you guys to work together you need to work together. You need to help yourself, or you need to help me to help you, basically. You need to help me by spearheading this and working as one unit moving forward, so that when my generation comes in and takes the torch, that's already a foundation set and we don't have to work backwards. So that was kind of like the purpose of the meeting. And then a lot of ideas were thrown around, and a lot of those ideas are what carry a lot of the Lahaina movements today.
Real quick before you move on to the point is, when I think about those meetings, right? A lot of there's good leadership and there's bad leadership, and then there's different ways to run leadership. But when I think about, there's the leadership where they're the bus driver, and everyone's on the bus, and everyone they got the choice to go on the bus and off the bus, right, at the bus stops, right? And so the person driving is technically like the leader, and everyone's in there, doesn't decide where the bus goes. They just know where it's going. All right, I'll go on that bus. And I feel like that's been our generations and generations before, where we just let somebody else drive. Where I feel like now, more than ever, it needs to be more like a bike gang, where everyone's on their own motorcycle, and we have a leader in the front breaking the wind, but everyone is coming, not only getting on the bus per se, but not even better than getting on the bus, they're choosing to even be in line and submit to authority and leadership and submit to the people in front, and then ride together. And they can exit whenever they want, where a bus, you can't. If you're ticked off at the bus driver and all of a sudden you don't like where he's going, you're screwed, right? And to the next stop. Whereas as a bike crew or club, you are riding together and you're choosing to be there, and you can exit at any time. And the leader up front is like, hey, you can go wherever you want, but this is where we're going. And the cool thing is what I saw you do, observing afar, is seeing that everyone were leaders. Like I said, there were like 30 leaders, and they had their old kuleana, they have all that, and they came together, right? And the cool thing about the leader is it on a bike it switches sometimes. So hey, you broke the wind, let somebody else break the wind. You go to the back, right, and then so it's easier for you, so you can rest.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you saw all these leaders come together in one room, and you weren't saying, "Hey, come to my bus." You weren't saying that.
No.
You were saying, "Hey, let's ride together, and let's make this happen." Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, definitely. It's, that was always something I saw even prior to the fire. Was we got certain leaders fighting for Mala Wharf and Kaanapali. Then there were certain ones fighting for Napili and Honokowai and Kahana. Then there were certain ones fighting at Honolua. I'm like, imagine if all 5 of those people fought for one thing at a time. We could all pool our resources, and we're a force to be reckoned with. But I mean, that was the idea that day, and that's kind of when Lahaina Strong was reborn, because Lahaina Strong was initially created in 2018 in response to the 2018 wildfire that burned, a bunch of homes, and it was kind of revived that day. And
So Lahaina Strong. So for the listeners that don't understand, so you had Maui Strong, Lahaina Strong, and you had all these kind of little things that, again, back to everyone's trying to start something, and you're like, you know what? I don't know what's real, who's putting the money right. They're gathering donations. Is it going to the people? But this was an entity that was already established. So let's just, it was already there. Let's not start something new. Let's just hooey around that. And that's what Lahaina Strong is.
Yes. Instead of doing all the work again, we just utilized Lahaina Strong because it was the idea of it responding to wildfires was already established.
And what's cool about that, if I can interrupt, is that a sign of a true leader is I don't care who gets the credit as long as we can unify, come together, mobilize, and achieve the outcome that we're trying to. And so for you could have said, no, I want my own brand. I want my own T-shirts. I want my own. Yeah. And you said, I don't care. Like, oh, it's already there. Oh. And so you were able to move faster because the ground was already plowed, right? There's already an entity. Awesome. So the ground's already plowed. So all you had to do is say, all right, well, let's join that. Let's do that.
Well, like I said, time was of the essence. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to go backwards and start all of this other stuff when it was already an established thing. And we're all, Lahaina burnt down. So Lahaina Strong, I mean, it all worked out perfectly. And then, the ones who actually started Lahaina Strong are now heavily integrated into the Lahaina Strong that exists now. And, we've branched out to multiple
Still waiting
people.
for a T-shirt, bro. Still haven't got one yet.
Oh, we'll get you one.
I'm kidding.
We'll get you one. But, a lot of these leaders, they're not 100% part of Lahaina Strong now, but they are the ones that advise us with a lot of the decisions we make. So, we saw our people being neglected a lot, the voices not being recognized or heard. So we wanted, I guess the idea with Lahaina Strong was empowering them and uplifting their voices. So we almost act as the voice of the community. Yeah. Right. We go around, we talk to individuals at every single distribution center and hub. We talk to the community leaders. We come back and pull that information together, and then we move forward based on what we have learned from our community. And that's pretty much where we're at right now. I mean, we're still fighting till this day for our community. Mm-hmm. If they said they wanted, regardless of what our community wants, if that's what they want, that's what we'll fight for. Even if it's against my own morals or somebody else or environmentally is not sound or just, if that's what the community wants, that's what my people want, then I think we can all agree, all of Lahaina Strong would agree that that's what we're going to fight to get for them.
Mm-hmm. Which is family. They want their life back. They want, protect the Aina and, and obviously we see Hawaii be treated certain ways. Without pointing fingers of just, the resources just being, I always say, the resources being pimped.
Hawaii's being treated like a prostitute.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is a chance to start with Lahaina and build it the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Right.
And every single issue that every Lahui, Kanaka, Hawaiian member, protester, whatever you want to refer to them as, every issue that they fight for all the time, every single day, 365 days a year, is everything that led to the devastation we see now: water rights, environmental rights, lack of diversification of our economy, not having a very extractive industry that just takes all of our resources,
Not having a plan when something like that happens.
not having a plan, lacking the right infrastructure, lacking even all the way up to the Department of Education sector, like all of it. All of those issues that we've been fighting for has all manifested itself into one perfect storm that burnt down our town. So, as devastating as the wildfire was for all of us, it is also the biggest opportunity for us to spearhead every single issue and fix it right now. And if we don't fix it now, it will never change. We're going to go right back to what we were doing. And it has to happen now. All eyes are on Lahaina. We have the resources to do it. We have the people power to make it happen. We have the will to make it happen. But we just need the means to make it happen.
And that's where, our leadership is saying, oh, we're going to help. And so hopefully they come through with that, because, there's certain areas where I say, yeah, for sure, FEMA came in, Red Cross came in, and definitely provided resources and supplies more so. And so now we're months, from that, and now it's not as a present need as far as like everyone needs toilet paper, everyone needs all these things, but now that people are still having to pay their mortgage, they can't go work, right? Yeah, tourism is back, but it's not back in full effect. The businesses that were in Lahaina, they can't just, okay, let's go put a tent somewhere and start working, right? And so there's still other things that are needed that we're still dependent on our leadership, that we're a bit disappointed in some of it, right? And some of it is like, great, that's excellent. That was done right, and this is not. So let's not point fingers and just throw stones at each other. Let's fix it, like you said.
Yeah,
let's just move forward and just fix it.
Yeah, and I think fixing it, the first step to fixing anything is empowering your community and talking with your community. That is the first and foremost thing to do, right? Before anything moves forward, say with infrastructure, you got to make sure the community is okay with that first. As far as like opening tourism back up to Lahaina, that decision was made off of 200 people in a room in a private meeting. That's where that decision was made to reopen Lahaina back up to tourism. We're not against tourism, but we knew that we needed to hit at least a specific set of benchmarks so that our people weren't displaced further. The exact same thing that's happening right now. Now that tourism is starting to ramp up, we're starting to have to make room for our visitors coming in, therefore displacing our members from the hotel rooms and kicking them out and putting them in another place. That's 9 times now some of these people have moved, right? So all of these benchmarks as far as like mental health, the safety of being in the burn zone in that area, where are the kids and gonna go when their parents have to go back to work, is there daycare for them, all of those things we should have addressed first. But now we've skipped past all of these steps to the end of making money and bringing in tourism and bringing in our guests. We skipped all of these steps, and now we're starting to backtrack to have to address these issues on the fly, when the community said this already. The community had the answer.
And isn't it a community that elects these officials to do what the community wants? Hey, I want you to represent me, or I want you to represent us. And by you representing us, or we're voting on you because we think you are representing us. So then when we elect these officials into office and they don't really represent us, then it becomes a problem. And so I'm seeing it, like what you're saying, is we're reopened, and now where are these people going? They're getting displaced. And so now the private entities, the caring citizens, are now having to take on that weight that we should have a better system and process, right? And it's not like this has never happened anywhere in the world, right? So why, we could blame, but there's definitely ways that we can see, oh, that's how they did it, let's do it that way, right? And so in Lahaina, you were a big part of just helping so many other leaders and so many people. I can sit here and talk to probably hundreds and hundreds of people who stepped up and just said, I'm not waiting on anybody, I'm going to start helping. Like, you wanted to protect your people, and leadership, was that, like, did that look like leadership to you? And then you say you learned from these leaders, so now you're in a position of leadership, and people are leaning into you and saying, hey, what do you think? Like, now your voice has value, right? And it's because people resonate with what you're saying. And so was that like something like that is just came and like, here's, no one's doing it, so I need to do it? Like, how did you step into that leadership role?
I guess just back in, all those years ago when I noticed how me speaking has an effect on certain people and a lot of people. So, I mean, I still don't even really feel like I'm a leader myself. I just fit into a specific role of where I could be most beneficial to benefit my people in my place. That was all it was. Like, I wasn't trying to get in the spotlight. I just saw, okay, we're lacking this part, getting the information out to people, and even just speaking, putting the ideas and the concerns and the things our community has been saying into a way that everybody can relate to was like, okay, I can do that. So, I started being asked to be on the news and stuff like that. And I was saying, a lot of the things that I say is but an echo of what my community has said. So,
which is a true leader.
Yeah.
Being a good listener.
Well, a good leader does not lead from in front. He leads from beside.
Yeah. Amen.
So I saw that and I was like, okay, that's the role that I can play. There, like I said, I still don't really consider myself
well, you
a
are,
leader.
so stop it.
I don't, but
no, you weren't seeking it. And that's one thing we were talking about earlier, before this podcast, is that, someone who's seeking the stage and looking for the limelight, that's not the leader we want.
I'll be honest, I hate being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
I hated it, but
well, I'm sure all the ladies are looking at your hair is like, oh, bro, look at his hair.
Let yours down. Don't even start, bro.
I didn't want a competition, right? Your locks are looking good today.
But yeah, and that goes back to me knowing what I'm talking about. I made sure that I went to my community. I talked to people. I talked to my community leaders, the ones I consider leaders. I talked to them. I threw ideas. I listened, gather that, and you think critically on these things. You don't. The way that we've been taught, we've been conditioned for so long to just go along with the flow. Mm-hmm. Being, like I said before, just being complacent with what's in front of you. But if we're complacent, then we're going to sit around the table and complain about the same thing, but do the same thing the next day. That's insanity, literally.
Yeah,
right?
Definition, yeah.
So that was where I was coming from. Like, we need to make a change. We need to make a change. Right now is the best. I saw the only chance to make that change on a scale this big is right now. And if we don't do it now, like I said, if we don't do it now, we'll never have an opportunity again.
And it's because you just said earlier that this has been generational issues, right? This has been, or not generation, maybe the last 10, 15, 20 years of issues that just literally just all came together and this thing happened. And they weren't listening then. No. So hopefully now they can listen, because now this disaster happened, and you better listen now to the community, because we've been saying this now for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so there's a sense of humility about you that I've noticed, even through social media, and then now meeting you in person today. Again, we spent 6 hours together today, and it's just a sense of humility, and that's really hard to see sometimes in certain leaders. There's a lot of pride and like, oh, I know it all. I'm going to come in and tell you all my ideas, and I'm just going to come onto my bus, right? Like the analogy I gave earlier. But there's a sense of humility about you that you really care. You're genuine, and you really care about your people, your aina, and the responsibility, the kuleana that you have for living here in Maui, if not all the islands, just supporting the community here. And so when you lead out of humility, you often practice meekness, which is power under control. So you can kind of be this rebel and really throw everyone on the bus. But even in hearing you try not to throw people on the bus, and you try to do, like you say, bipartisanly, and say, hey, I want to be respectful, but someone's got to step up. And sometimes people can confuse someone stepping up as pride, and sometimes it's just past, it's in humility is why you're leading. It's humility is like, man, somebody's got to do it. And if no one's going to do it, then I'm going to do it, right? Even if people make fun of me, even if I lose my job, even if I'm, canceled, whatever, I don't care. Like, I care about my people, and that's a humble thing to do. So I see that in you, and that's awesome. Like, have you always been that way, or is that something recently that you've learned? Or have you learned it through some kapuna? Like, how did you get there?
I think it's just that mentality that I was taught my whole life. Like, you just shoot out respect and stay in a place of humbleness, regardless, because that Hawaiian ideology is not, the land is the chief, the people are its servants, right? So I come from a mindset of I'm a servant to my place. I am not the chief of my place. And as far as like, coming across as humble, like that's something we're taught, not taught, but like because of the ideologies that I've learned through like Hawaiian immersion and all of those things, and just the family that I've been around, like it's not about you, like you can go out there and just hustle and bustle and have, all the fame in the world and all the money in the world, but when you're dead, it's all gone. Nobody gives a shit. But when you're gone, nobody cares. It's just, you can't take that money and that fame and everything with you. But what you can leave behind is a better place for the future generations. Legacy. And that legacy of your place. And, that Hawaiian mentality of if something takes generations to figure out, a specific issue takes generations, then that's what it takes. It's this new ideologies that have come in from the Westerner point of view of short term, everything now
microwave
needs
society.
to happen now, the American dream, all of that. That is not a Hawaiian dream. The American dream is not a Hawaiian dream. When you look at Hawaii, because we're on an island, our resources are finite. We need to be forward thinkers. We need to think of the future, because if we deplete all of our resources, where are we going to run to? We can't run to the other side of the continent. We have the other side of the island, which is right there, right? So we need to be that forward thinking. And I think that's maybe where I come from. I just...
Oh, everything, you respect...
everything is just for my place.
Yeah, you respect the Aina, and they're just saying, whoever's listening, whatever religious background they're from, but the saying could resonate, is the greatest among you shall be a servant. And what you're saying is, as we serve the community, that's where true leadership is. And that's how you learn humility, because when you're serving people, you realize how good you have it, right? It's like, man, like, I'm fortunate. Like, I have abundance, And so when you're serving the community, you see all the issues, so you can't be prideful in that. You're like, your heart's broken for the community, and it makes you want to do more. And so, you're right, and a lot of people don't realize that, Hawaii is a state. But when you get here, you quickly realize that we don't run like the mainland states. No. It's like coming to a different country. And it's because it's the Aloha spirit. It's a different creed that the Hawaiians and the locals try to live by. And it's not the American dream. It's not try to, I call it the spirit of competition. And we're always trying to keep up with the Joneses, have the nicest car, the biggest house. I said in Hawaii, the people who have money are in tank tops, flip-flops, surfing. Right, they don't care what and even if you have those things, we don't care. You know what we care about? If you pono, if you have a good heart, do you care about the community? Do you give back? Then we respect. But if you're somebody that's prostituting this country, prostituting this state and this land and doing it for selfish gain and gaining all these resources, then you don't get respect.
You don't belong here.
Right, you don't belong.
You really don't belong here.
Yeah.
Whether if I had the power to kick you out, I would. But I don't.
Right.
Don't have that power. But
so learn, right? So we're talking like learn about the culture here.
Yeah, I don't go fly to California or Texas or anywhere in the United States without first doing my research of that place and knowing certain things that might not be okay with the community there. Like, I want to be respectful of someone else's home, so I would like to expect the same on my home, And that's what aloha is. When you break down aloha, alo is your face, what you use to present yourself. Ha is the breath you take in. All right. So if you've ever seen Hawaiians or greet each other, we put our heads together and we breathe in. That is the action of aloha. And you are breathing in that same moment with them. And that gives them, it's like you portraying a respect for them, living in that moment. It's the essence of being alive in that place together. And that's where your cliche love and family and all of those things come from, but it's the respect of being in that place at that time. That's what aloha is, and that's why it makes people feel so welcome, because you respect them in that time that you're together, being alive in that moment.
That's awesome. I think too, a kapuna was telling me that it's also like the creed of aloha, the the peace, the love, the essence of the source behind. So when you say aloha, it's also like you're agreeing with that creed, that respect that you're talking about. It's not just saying hi and bye. It's just,
Yeah.
or some marketing thing on a T-shirt. It's a more meaningful word than what people have realized it to be.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say, like, I stopped saying aloha because the marketing companies like overused it and it sounds cheesy. But then when Uncle told me about, what it really means, it was a sense of pride of saying, I say aloha because I believe in the creed of aloha.
Yeah.
I believe in what it stands for.
And aloha does not just encompass us meeting face to face. It's everything around us, to our environment. We are a product of our environment, right? So when we're giving aloha, we're not only giving aloha to each other, but to our place as well. So that's where my morals and everything comes from, is from a place of aloha for my place. And knowing that my place does not just encompass the land and the environment and the oceans and the reefs, but also the people of the place. We are not separate from our environment. We're not separate from nature. We are all part of it, right? So the sooner we come to that realization, the sooner we can save our world, our entire planet.
Yeah.
We're not separate from our environment at all.
And Polynesians, they don't see the ocean as separation. They see the ocean as connecting us.
That is a connection.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like your challenges. Like how do you personally overcome the opposition and failure, and as now walking into this leadership, and you are a leader, like we see you, so you could deny all you want, but people are leaning onto you as leadership. So how do you, like, when no one's, you're at home, you're sleeping, or you're about to go to sleep, and you're thinking like all the rejection and opposition, how do you overcome that?
Well, I think it's just the way I was taught, being hard-headed. Like, I see it moving forward, and nothing's gonna stop me. My way of overcoming it is knowing that I'm willing to give my life for this place. So there's nothing that's gonna stop me from making this place better before I die. And a lot of the opposition that I gain, I look to my other community leaders. I look to them and I ask them and I consult with them. I don't bear all the burden myself, is what I'm trying to say. I'm in front of the camera a lot, but a lot of what we have accomplished is with the collective of the team. It's not just about me, that the entire team has something to bring to the table. So being open-minded, being able to draw in ideas from other people and trying to mold it into one idea to tackle an issue, that's what's necessary. So that's what we do. There's no my word is more absolute than his.
Yeah.
We all have something to mold together to bring to the table.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of our, I guess aside from that, a lot of our issues that we face is we pretty much just tackle everything down because we've built such a force with Lahaina Strong. We built that people power, and we tackle it. We basically play the game, We tackle it on every single level that we can. And then we incorporate the community whom our officials serve, and making them realize, hey, your tax dollars put the shirt on his back, put the gas in his tank, and put the food in his refrigerator. So you really do have the power to make the change. We just need to work together.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
And I do lean on the team a lot.
Yeah, which is awesome. Like you need a team around you to support you, and and sometimes I don't like to look at leadership as this hierarchy, like I'm better than you, right? Because again, serving is really what a leader is, right? It's more I'm behind, pushing up. How do I inspire? How do I bring the gold out? How do I champion you as an individual, right? I believe that every person's sovereign. Every family, every person is special, every person has gold. And so sometimes this world doesn't treat them that way based off of what's in their bank account, based off of what's, what status they have. I care less about that. Hey, you pono, if you're not, let's get you pono and let's champion you so that you can live a great life, abundant life, a fun life, and hanging out and enjoying this great life. Especially if you live in Hawaii, you got this beautiful island to enjoy. And so what I'm hearing you say is when you face opposition, when you face challenges, yeah, you reflect and you look at what I'm seeing is you look at the vision and the mission that you're on. So the mission provokes you. I'm going to die for this. I have signed up for this for life. I'm going to die for this. But furthermore, it's leaning on your community to help you, the kapuna and the people that you trust, to lean on and counsel you and say, hey, this is how we did it, which is awesome. That is a great leader. That is characters of a great leader. So it's awesome that you're able to do that because you have a community around you.
Yeah, it's like I said before, the community has the will to make it happen. We just don't always have the means to make it happen. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, so we're trying
to get our own means. Okay, you're not guys aren't gonna listen to us. We'll make it happen ourselves then.
So, amen to that. And so, in closing, what would you say to a guy who's watching this, or a girl who's watching this? Oh, let me get politically correct here. What would you say to anybody watching this who maybe don't feel like a leader, or maybe they're scared to speak out of something that they believe in, the creed that they sign up, or the mission, or they want to stand up? Like, what would you say to them to inspire them to step out and be a leader and charge after what you feel like your kuleana is? Because when I see you do it, it's amazing, and all the people behind you and people that you're following, right, is amazing what's happening right now, all the stuff that you're doing. And so what would you say to a person that's scared to take that step into leadership?
First and foremost, you have to learn how to follow before you can learn how to lead. Amen. You got to be able to step behind, putting your ego and your pride aside and taking other people in as your mentor. Like I've always been behind all of my community leaders, and there was a chance. I mean, it wasn't a chance for me to move forward, but I was pushed in the front. But learning how to follow before you can lead. But also being able to decipher between what to follow. And for myself, when I look at who to follow, I look at the integrity as a person, first of all. Second, if the things that they're sharing with me, like for me, the root of everything, I look back at, okay, we're moving forward with this idea and everything. The root of it, if it doesn't benefit and it's extracting from our environment, then already it's drawing a red flag in myself to be like wary of that decision, right? So if we look at all of our issues moving forward as far as like infrastructure and our economy, how our economy is so monopolized in one industry and all of those things, all of those issues relate back to degradation of our environment. Everything moving forward, everything we've been fighting for, everything we believe in only serves to better our environment. So that has been my guiding force. Like, okay, what he said, what he's proposing takes away from our land and our environment. So I'm wary of that. But what he said actually benefits our place. That means that I can trust that word. So I guess the base of every single decision I make is for the environment, because you know our officials, they believe, I've said this before, they believe that the health of the economy determines the health of the people. But no, it's the health of the environment which determines the health of the people, which in turn determines the health of our economy, right? So we go back to that, the root of everything, and that's our place, our environment.
And so you were saying then, for that young leaders, like, go find people to follow and go find the right people to follow, not just
the right
anybody.
people to follow. And you know what's right and wrong. Everybody, I mean, it's so easy to, maybe just for myself, but everybody knows what's right and what's wrong.
It's in your soul,
right?
now.
So just first be passionate about what you're doing. Do what is right. If you do what is right, you'll fall into where you need to be. And maybe you won't be in front of the camera like me, which I don't even like to be in front of the camera again. But it's important for everybody to work together as one collective, because we all have a role to play. Like, for the people who've never been in front of the camera, I would not be where I am today had it not been for them, right? For the people who are not even in the vicinity and they're editing videos and stuff, they made that video so damn amazing that now we've gained all of this publicity due to how that video made somebody feel.
Right.
So I wouldn't have been able to do that by myself. So, you know, branching out and just being open-minded and thinking critically.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta analyze things on a critical level. You cannot just say, "Oh yeah, that's fine." You know, I have trust issues, I guess.
No,
I
yeah.
don't just trust anything that comes my way. I first dive into it. I do my research. I make sure that whatever is ideas proposed to me is not going against my morals.
Yeah. Well, everyone should do that, right?
Yeah.
So, what's the future of where you're going? Like, what's next? And then, how can people access what you're doing and support what you're doing?
Well, the goal eventually is to run for office. That's what I want to do. Like, I just want to be a voice for the people, not a voice of voice of the people, not a voice for them. Right? I'll go and that's what our leadership lacks right now, is they don't go and listen to the people that they serve to then put that up on that platform to portray to the rest of the world. You know, it's always, no, this is what I think. No, this is what my community thinks. So I want to get to that position so I can make the change I know my people need. As far as how people can continue to stay engaged is, you know, we have our Lahaina Strong media platforms on both Facebook, Instagram. You can always stay up to date if you go there and you check. We usually do 1 or 2 videos every week just to update people on what's happening. Blake has also been vital to sharing that information. DeAndre with Manaya Kalani on his Instagram, but you know, those are the platforms that I trust because I've been integrated and part of them. And you know, Pono prevails. Pono always prevails. All we do is share the truth of what's the truth of our reality, and that's why I feel like people can trust that, because we're just telling it how it is.
Paele, thank you so much for your time today, man. It's a pleasure meeting you, and I know there's a lot of stuff that we're going to partner together and help out. I really want to champion you because I feel like a lot of stuff that you're doing and fighting for is really for the people, and it just resonates with so many people. And so thank you so much for joining me and answering all these questions. Mahalo for checking this out, guys. There'll be more content like this as I continue to reach out to community leaders and people that are doing meaningful changes. Thanks again. Let me know what you think. Write in the comments below. Like and share this content, because if we don't, then voices like this won't be heard all over the world. So, and we definitely want to increase that. So thank you so much.